Cowboys players in general, they do not realize that criticism is the cost of praise. Cowboys players whisper about the benefits, and then they yell about the disadvantages. Let me start with my industry, and then I will get to Micah Parsons. Think about the leading voice in football on CBS. Cowboys, Tony Romo. Think about the leading voice on ESPN football. Cowboys, Troy Aikman. Think about one of the leading voices on NBC. Cowboys coach Jason Garrett. Think about one of the leading voices on Fox. Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson and Moose Johnson and Daryl Moose Johnston. Think about one of the leading voices in NFL Network prior to this year. Cowboys, Michael Irvin. That's my industry.
You know, Acho, for somebody who's supposed to be so intelligent, you have a very hard time of grasping what a conversation is actually about, and then you like to throw out word salad and just say stuff. You just named off a bunch of analysts and dudes that are on national TV now that used to play for the Cowboys, most of which were on those championship teams for the Cowboys. But that has literally nothing to do with how you guys are dissecting the game. That's what Micah was speaking to, is how you're dissecting the game, not necessarily the frequency of them talking about the Cowboys. You guys have a much different way of looking at how a football game is happening on the field when it's the Cowboys versus anybody else. That's what he's discussing. Not all the extra storylines and narratives and stuff that has nothing to do with on the field. He's talking about how you judge players on the field.
So, if you're going to complain about the criticism, just remember, Cowboys players, and you, Micah, it's the cost of praise.
Micah Parsons set off an absolute nuclear bomb in the national media yesterday with his comments concerning the unfair criticism of Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. The biggest problem is, much like the national media always does, most of them, and by most I mean like literally like 90% of these dudes we're about to listen to, completely missed the point that Micah Parsons was actually making and tried to make it into another point. At no point did Micah Parsons say they don't deserve criticism or the Cowboys shouldn't be getting criticized as much as they are. What he said was, make sure that you're evaluating the way the players play on the same scale. And that has nothing to do with whether or not you're wearing a star on the side of your helmet. That has everything to do with what you're seeing on the tape when you're actually watching the games. And that is what Micah Parsons was actually speaking to. You can't look at two donkeys and then call one of them a stallion and pet it on the head if they're both donkeys. Call a donkey a donkey. Speaking of donkeys.
That's why we don't give Jalen Hurts the smoke. His team was just in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
They were just in the Super Bowl. It was his second full season as a starter.
He also lost in the Super Bowl.
The Cowboys have the 5th longest conference championship game drought, and they're the most visible franchise in the NFL. So that's why we're more critical toward Dak Prescott, because he's the guy that makes the mistakes at the most inopportune times, especially on the playoff stage, that keeps his team from advancing. When we say that this team has the same level of talent that teams like the Eagles, like the 49ers, like the Kansas City Chiefs have. That's why Dak gets all the smoke. Dak been a starter for 8 years in this league. He's got the same amount of playoff wins as Jalen Hurts. That's why we're not critical of Jalen Hurts. That's why we look at what happened Sunday at MetLife as an aberration, because Jalen Hurts, before that, won 11 straight road games. There is a difference. Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback. That's why we're more apt to dismiss when he has terrible games as opposed to Dak Prescott.
All right, now I see this whole Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott. That's why we don't criticize him theme get used way too often. This is my point. You guys are not actually feeding the audience factual truths. You guys are feeding the audience your opinions based off of whatever flavor of cereal you like. Just because Jalen Hurts does it in a way that makes you feel like he's the better quarterback, the numbers do not support that claim. Again, we looked at this on yesterday's video, but I'm giving you a refresher because we're going to have several analysts, including one that kind of defends Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, mistakenly say that Jalen Hurts had a better season last year than any of Dak Prescott's seasons in his whole career. That is factually wrong by pretty much every counting metric. If we're looking at 2022 Jalen Hurts, he threw for 3,700 yards with an 8.0 yards per attempt average, 246.7 yards per game, only 22 touchdowns throwing it, 6 interceptions, and a 101.5 quarterback rating. That is Jalen Hurts best career season. The rest of these seasons are actually kind of below average seasons for a quarterback. If we look at Dak Prescott, however, not only has he consistently performed at a higher clip than Jalen Hurts pretty much in every season of his career, even his worst season, which was 2017, is not as bad as Jalen Hurts' worst season so far, right? But there's been 2 seasons in which Dak Prescott has easily outperformed what Jalen Hurts did last year. And this is what I'm talking about. The media keeps moving the goalpost and are not giving you the full context and the full truth of what and who these players are, just so they can try to make whatever convoluted point it is that they're making. Dak Prescott in 2021, which was one of the seasons he had the #1 offense in the league, by the way, threw for 4,400 yards, which is a whole 700 more yards than Jalen Hurts threw for last season, 7.5 yards per attempt average, 278 yards per game, which is almost 20 yards more than what Jalen Hurts did last season, 37 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which is only 4 more interceptions than Jalen Hurts threw last season, but literally 15 more touchdowns than Jalen Hurts threw last season, with a 104.2 quarterback rating. Okay, that's kind of recent memory. That's literally just 2 seasons ago. Then we can go back to 2016. Rookie Dak was better than any version of the Jalen Hurts that we have seen thus far in the NFL. Rookie Dak, 3,600 yards, pretty much the same amount of yards Jalen Hurts threw. Same yards per attempt with 8.0. Less yards per game with 229.2. 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Remember, Jalen Hurts had 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 104.9 quarterback rating. I think I've proved my point. We can get into the rest of these clips and reacting to all the media hosts going crazy over what Micah Parsons has said. So with this framing being done, let's just see just how bad the national media is and how much they actually missed the mark on what Micah Parsons was actually saying.
I hope the Eagles crush the Cowboys. I'm just anti-Cowboys.
Well, I mean, but hold on. Can we just...
Because of Micah? Because of this?
Are the Cowboys as good as the Lions? I'm starting to get like a little bit annoyed. Sorry, I don't want to do it on national television.
Wow.
No,
I'm just annoyed by it.
Okay.
Are the Cowboys as good as the Lions?
right now, no.
Okay. How often
Are
does
the
national
Eagles as good
media-
as the Lions? Are the Eagles right now as good as the Lions?
No, but
I would
the
say
Eagles
yeah.
are better than the Cowboys.
Oh, okay. So what? Okay. So right. So
I'm starting to get bothered by the media, but I'm part of the media, and I
No,
know
but
that
so I guess
people
the
watch
point-
the Cowboys, but it's annoying.
But let's
See, you literally just did exactly what Michael was talking about. You let your emotions get involved in a job that's supposed to be objective where you're talking about facts. You just spouted out 2 opinions that you have not supported with factual evidence yet. And no, don't just say, oh, they have 1 less game in the loss column. The Eagles are 5-1. The Cowboys are 4-2. The record is not a good enough reason to say one team is truly better than the other. Support your statement with actual analysis and actual facts, and people will take you more seriously.
I do think it is fair to judge different teams by different standards. And if people want to argue the Niners have earned a different benefit of the doubt, but the Eagles haven't, in my opinion. Let me explain it.
I mean,
for a
I
second,
get it,
Wiles.
but like
I do not think that when we talk about, he's talking about Dak Prescott, I do not think Jalen Hurts should have earned such a greater benefit of the doubt than Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts has had 1 awesome season. The argument that Jalen, now you can say, well, you believe his trajectory is better, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Over the course of their career, the idea that Jalen Hurts is this head and shoulders guy that's better is just not true. 2 years ago, he was not better. This year, he's not been better. Last year
he was
Jalen
better.
Hurts was exceptional, and last year, he was better than Dak's been at any point of his career.
Right.
See, Nick, you were cooking with fish grease, but then you didn't want to commit. I don't know why, but that last statement you just said is actually false. I actually showed that already. What you just said wasn't true.
Now, I've already done the dirty work, so I'm not going to address the lies that were just told in this video. Now, a lot of times humans only remember the last thing that was said to them, but I'm not going to go over and rehash exactly the evidence that I just provided you guys that Jalen Hurts actually isn't a better quarterback than Dak and actually has never had a better season than anything that Dak has done in his best season. It hasn't happened to this point yet, even though he did make it to the Super Bowl. And, oh, by the way, he did make a crucial mistake at a crucial time in two big moments within just this season and last season. Against the Jets, he threw a pick 6. In the Super Bowl, he fumbled and threw an interception. I don't care how well he played. His plays that he made were actually the reason the Eagles were in position to lose that game. So whatever Chris Canty is talking about, whatever Wilds and all these other dudes are talking about is actually cap. What they're saying is based on emotion. Micah Parsons exposed the media for exactly the points he was trying to make. They're all going back to the safe zone of just being able to give us like a sideways compliment. Oh, it's the Dallas Cowboys. It's America's team. You have to expect the criticism. He isn't shying away from that. He's saying, if you guys are going to analyze the game, the tape don't change just based off the logo on the helmet. The tape on the field is going to be the same. The tape on the field is going to show the true story of what's going on in these games. And that's what he's saying, is you guys actually break down film differently than you do with the Cowboys, with anybody else. And again, nobody asked you guys to cover the Cowboys every single day. Hell, I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, and I wouldn't mind seeing some more segments run about some of the other players in the league so I can actually know who's good. There's people like Amon-Ra St. Brown and, like they said, TJ Watt and some of these lesser known players, Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals. Talk about all these dudes that are making impacts. Don't try to make it seem like you're being forced to talk about the Cowboys by us. That is not the case. When even Cowboys fans are telling you at this point, we don't want to see all this Cowboys talk because you guys are trying to create and manufacture storylines when there are none to be manufactured or created. We don't want to see it. But I digress. Let's get back into these angry analysts. And did I mention they were being super hypocritical as well? Thought I mentioned that.
I care about. At San Francisco, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts twice, at Buffalo, and at Miami. Judge them on these games. Those are talented boxers who can punch back. Okay? What's going to happen when they don't jump out to a lead, when they have to play from behind? They beat the 2-3 Chargers, a team that has not won their division despite having Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert, really good quarterbacks, in 14 years.
Now, I don't think that anyone is calling them bums who don't deserve to be on the field. I don't recall anyone saying that.
Yeah, so Colin Cowherd and Joy Taylor just both blatantly lied, and both are extremely big hypocrites. Joy Taylor, we have literally seen your co-hosts on the very same show as you're sitting on talk about how Dak Prescott shouldn't be the starting quarterback or shouldn't be a starting quarterback in the NFL. You are going to sit here and say with a straight face that no one has said Dak shouldn't be on the field or no one should have said that Dak is trash and not capable. Yes, y'all have! That's what you guys have made your brand off of. Yes, y'all have, Booby Taylor. I don't know why you sitting there lying like that. We can see the truth through the boobs. And Colin Cowherd, I'm not even going to address you. The masses may have forgotten about you referring to Dwayne Haskins and saying he would never win the Super Bowl, even though that young man has passed away, God rest his soul. But I haven't forgotten. You lost every ounce of credibility that your old, decrepit, on the last wheels career had left when you sat there and said that a dude that has passed away a couple of years before the statement was even made would never have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And it was never man enough to come back and admit that you made a mistake, and maybe the graphic team made a mistake, whatever. You were never man enough to admit the mistake, bro. So why do you think that anybody cares what you say? In fact, the people that sit here and parrot the stuff that these dudes are saying on national media, these are lost souls. There's no reason to argue with them. There's no reason to entertain them. These are people looking for attention. These are people who love to exist in misery and are okay with not being shown and told the truth. These are those people. These are the blind sheep, in the words of Caleb Williams. Even that dude's extremely unlikable. These are blind sheep. So we're not going to waste our time with these people anymore. The Cowboys need to fully embrace the villain role. You're not going to get anybody to like you, so screw it. Let's just pulverize everybody into dust and force them to respect us. Y'all know how we always end these videos. How about them Cowboys? Are you still involved? Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still involved? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still involved. Woo, hey, I'm still them boys.